Good morning, this is Daniel Fitzgerald doing another video on Sunday, August 21st, 2022. I thought that I had the damn thing on. I went to turn up the volume and it stopped recording, so I didn't see that. But anyway, I don't look at the top at the little red timer on the top for how long the video is going to be. I have some new reports for the public regarding Mr. Mullowney and my brother. Okay. First of all, I wish to state that I had contacted my brother because I wanted to know why my brother did not accept the 50% split offer to him. Okay? Now, I want to state to the public that Mr. Mullowney, when he stated to me almost 4 weeks ago that my brother agreed to the split, all Mr. Mullowney said to me is he was going to be applying for an executor certificate. Okay, that's all he said. Then he wouldn't say anything else. Then I find out from Mullowney that he tells me that my brother's lawyer bailed on him. Okay, and again, I asked Mr. Mullowney why. I said, well, I called him and I emailed him and asked him why. Why did my brother bail? Well, he wouldn't answer again. You see, this is Mullowney. Wouldn't tell me anything. Wouldn't answer my questions. So what I did was I decided to contact my brother. Maybe I could get an answer out of him. Now, at first, when I left him messages on his phone, he sent me a terrible message back. There was no need for that. I was self-representing myself in contacting him because my lawyer refused to tell me anything. Okay, and I had a right to know why my brother stopped the agreement on the 50% split. Okay, that Mullowney told me was already in motion. And also I asked Mr. Mullowney who was going to be executor. He never answered that neither. So I decided I would self-represent myself. God bless. Happy Sabbath to all of you, by the way. I hope your Sabbaths went well. Mine was terrible, but I did manage to light my menorah and pray and stuff. And I listened to a bit of Enoch and a little bit of Schindler's List. I didn't get to finish the film, but my heart goes out to all my Jewish brothers and sisters. I love all of them, except for the government of Israel. Okay, so I wanted to mention that too. Anyway, Mr. Mullowney refused to give me any information as to why the agreement fell through with my brother. He refused to indicate to me when I asked him who were going to be the executors, because I didn't get the chance to ask him on the phone. And I emailed and asked him, no response. So I decided that, well, Mr. Mullowney is not going to be my lawyer and is not going to answer my questions, so I will contact my brother myself and see what he has to say. And I expected my brother to be angry and derogatory. I warned him in the telephonic messages I left him. I asked him, I said, what happened to the 50-50 split, Scott? I asked him this. It was very difficult for me because of the diaries from my mom. I have to be able to block them out, and that takes focus and concentration to not get upset with him over that. I knew that I didn't have to be cordial, but I had to be reasonable and firm in my self-representation for answers because Mr. Mullowney refused to supply them again. So in the first, I left him 2 recorded messages. I tried to reach out to him, wanting an explanation. I thought it was very strange that, he didn't accept the split. So in his response, he was really derogatory and threatening and told me not to contact him again. Just being really nasty. In my messages, I warned him that any derogatory remarks or threats against me would not be tolerated, and I would not contact him again. I told him that I'm making him one offer to split based on the Bonifant will. And I made that offer with honesty and integrity. Okay. I told him, look, Scott, you're not responsible for my lawyer's billing. If you're willing to split the estate based on the Bonifant will, then I will take care of my billing with my lawyer if he gets anything at all. This is what I told him, and I meant that. I'm a very honest person, okay? And I'll tell the truth to anyone, even my brother, who's a monster, quite frankly. I'm crying all day long. I love my mom, and I got her a nice headstone, and nobody cares about that. Anyway, I don't want to get into that because I'll just start tearing up. I don't want to do that. I've already done that today with the Supreme Court of Canada in a phone call to the registry. I got to remain emotionally stable from tears and sadness in order to carry this video through, okay? Because I won't be able to think clearly if I start tearing up. For me, it's not, there's anger there, yes, of course there is, right? Anybody would be, any normal person would be, but for me, it's more the sadness and emotional upset over this whole thing, what these people have done, and my poor mother and I, and her memory being destroyed by people who don't care about her. They don't care that I couldn't go to her funeral. I want to go dearly to see her grave and talk with her. I'm very sad, and nobody cares. The people that have viewed my videos, no one's viewed the diaries. Okay, 0 so far. I'm wondering why that is. And that's because someone wants to keep the diaries secret. Well, the Supreme Court is going to see those diaries. I'm taking photographs of each individual entry by my mom. I also want to show you something. I have some proof here. I just have to cover up the person, okay, by name. Here is the envelope this person sent me. This is the person who helped my wife and I with documents. But I have to hide this person's name for her own safety. Okay? Anyways, let me move on now. So my brother was very derogatory, and I told him that I will appeal anything, and it will be an appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada, and he will have to come to Ottawa. And I meant that. I mean, I wasn't lying. I mean, it's true, as well as my lawyer. Well, my lawyer is here. I can serve him right here with Supreme Court documents, with accusations, depositions, and these kinds of things. So anyway, he was very derogatory, and then he told me, don't ever contact me again. I accepted that, and I didn't bother. So then my brother sends me these text messages. Okay? He sent me one, and, he said that he didn't want to hurt me. He said, there's money in this for you. He said, I want to tell you some things about your lawyer. You're not going to get a cent because he's going to steal your entire estate through his billing. Well, yeah, okay, but my brother's the cause of that, and so he placed a condition on opening up and telling me things. His condition was that he wanted me to send him an email notifying him that I terminated my lawyer, and then he would share these things with me. Okay, and by the time I finished this conversation with him, I just couldn't do it anymore. The diary started popping up in my head, and so I had to stop. And he asked me to. He said he sent me his email address. I didn't give him my own personal Gmail account. I gave him the one my wife and I share because I don't want him emailing me there. And so the diaries kicked in, and he wanted me to respond, and I indicated to him that I had to go to work. I said I work, and then I said I don't have time now. I'm late for work. I had to say something. I had to make up some excuse, okay? And then he said to me, well, I'm having company till Sunday. So that was fine with me. That got me off the hook. I have to think now of some other excuse as to why I'm not responding. I'll come up with something. I'm not sure yet, because I don't have any more to say to him, or my attorney. I don't. Neither of these people cared about my mother. All they cared about was what they could pocket. That's what they cared about. My lawyer does not care about my feelings at all. He just doesn't. Okay, but anyway, let me move on here. So my lawyer, sends me this email today on Sunday telling me that he wants two things. He wants a screenshot of my brother's communications to me. He knows I reminded him that my phone is hacked, as he agreed, and that I've used the screenshots before. They don't work. Okay, I did try to screenshot. It doesn't work. Okay, so I told him I will find some other method, which I'll do. I'll find some other method to take the screenshot of the statements by my brother. My lawyer won't get mine statements to my brother because they're irrelevant. Irrelevant because I needed information out of my brother. My brother does not know for sure at all if I'm going to terminate my lawyer. I mean, he doesn't know. He does not really know all. I told him I don't want to talk about Mr. Mullowney. So, I gave him very little information on that. I just told him I was unhappy with my lawyer. I made a few small comments but that was about it, because I needed to convince my brother. He doesn't know if it's true or not. What I said to him was true, but he doesn't know that. Mullowney knows that, right? But my brother doesn't. And I needed to get information out of him because Mullowney wouldn't supply it. So, I believe, what happened here too is Mullowney lied to me. He told me that the lawyer more recently bailed on my brother, and he told me that the previous lawyer bailed on my brother. Okay, he told me that the previous lawyer sent him a letter telling him my brother wanted him to apply to the Superior Court as sole executor because there was no will. Okay, now Mullowney has that, apparently. Why didn't Mullowney send an affidavit to the court with that evidence? Okay, he could have done that. I understand that the procedures in court are step by step. You have to start off with certain things and then eventually it leads to disclosure. Okay, but Mr. Mullowney refused to disclose to his own client what he had. Okay. So this has been the case all along. I said to Mullowney in the beginning, I said, are you going to contact the Crystal Beach Water Department and get a copy of his fax he sent them and a fax of his will? As far as I know, Mr. Mullowney never did that. I said to Mr. Mullowney, do you have witnesses? Did you send your investigator to Crystal Beach to take a photo of my brother's sign in the house? Well, by now, folks, now that my brother knows about my allegations of him trying to sell the house, okay, without my permission, which is true, okay, there are witnesses. But the problem is, Mr. Mullowney did not send anybody there to take a photograph of this sign of my brother's in the house, telling the public, this house is for sale, contact R.S. Scott Fitzgerald. The other error my brother made was in his deposition application to the court, regarding reasons for him to be sole executor. He indicated that the property, my mother's total assets were $316,000. He told Mr. Mullowney, this came out of Mr. Mullowney's own mouth to me on the telephone, that my brother did not want me to have access to my mother's trust accounts. So when I questioned Mr. Mullowney on that on the phone, he said, I can't remember saying that. I have to check my notes. Okay, well, he never checked his notes and got back to me on that. So, it's very difficult to tell how much lying is going on by Mr. Mullowney, all right? My brother stated in his application as sole executor, okay, that the estate was worth $316,000. That includes my mother's personal assets. But Mr. Mullowney told me my brother didn't want me having access to my mother's trust accounts. Now, someone here is lying. Well, my brother was definitely lying in the amount, at least on the house. The $16,000 in assets outside of the property's value. Okay, that's not true. The $16,000 and the $300,000 is not true neither, because I sent a real estate agent to the house last week. He emailed me on Wednesday, as he said he would, and he could not get into the house because he doesn't have the keys. Okay, but I asked him to go and do a rough estimate anyway, and he came back at me. He said, well, between $399,000 and $410,000 is the value of the house. Okay, so but my brother told the court $300,000. I don't know where he got that from. But the real estate agent indicated to me that that because he couldn't get inside the house to see the inside, he could not be completely sure of the value. Okay, so that happened. Now, I did tell my brother that I did tell my lawyer, and I don't know if I don't remember if I informed my brother. I think I did. I told both of them the house is worth $400,000 without going inside. I don't think going into the inside of the house really will delete its value, the value that much. The house needs a new floor in the living room, and the kitchen needs to be completely sacked and redone. Okay, that's about it. Otherwise, it looks like a cottage, inside. The inside's actually, it's old, but it's in good shape, But anyway, I'll exclude that. So now, Mr. Mullowney, I asked Mr. Mullowney, what about my mom's diaries? I asked him yesterday, on Saturday, on the Sabbath. I asked him today. No response. He just wants me to take a screenshot of my brother's messages to me, and he wants direction from me on the next steps. Well, I emailed him back and I said, well, Mr. Mullowney, you have to explain to me what these next steps are before I can tell you what to do. And I sent it to him twice. He never responded. Okay. And again, I mentioned to Mr. Mullowney about my mom's diaries. I suggested to him that Justice Edward maybe can look at these diaries from my mom in chambers. Okay? No response. And Mr. Mullowney talks about, he says, I have to protect your rights. Well, I already sent Mr. Mullowney options to protect my rights. I also sent him a copy of my email to the Supreme Court of Canada, where I didn't send him the letter that I sent them. I sent him a copy of their auto response, okay, to let him know, my brother, that my resolve is very firm on this. The other item I'll bring up is that Mr. Mullowney, when he informed me that he needed to send a notice of objection and he needed my permission to do so, what he said to me was, the judge is ready to give orders. Okay, Mr. Mullowney made it sound like the judge is ready to give orders based on the notice of objection. Okay, that's what he said. Now, what I was expecting was, I was expecting Mr. Mullowney to write up the objection notice and send me a copy of what he stated on it with my approval, and he would have to have my signature on the document. This is what I mean about this lawyer. He didn't do that. He wrote in the document, he said in the document, I, Daniel Fitzgerald, say this, this, and this about, my brother trying to sell the house and my brother doing these other things, okay, which are true. Oh, they are true. Okay. But Mr. Mullowney never consulted with me and had my permission beforehand and let me read what he had stated I had stated. Okay? He's supposed to send me the document and say, Dan, review this. Do you agree with what is in here? This is what happened. Your brother trying to sell the house and, blah, 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 using the will, an illegal will, and so on. Right? Now, what he said in there was true. Okay? But if he had sent me that to have my approval to give it to the court, right? I would have replied and said, well, Mr. Mullowney, where's your evidence? Did you send your investigator to get a photograph of the sign my brother? Because my brother can remove the sign, right? The minute that he sends that to my brother, because he has to send my brother a copy of the objection notice, right? Well, when my brother sees it, he's going to do everything he can to ensure there's no evidence that he tried to sell the house. Bingo. Okay? He's going to go down to the house and he's going to take that sign out of the window saying, this house is for sale. My name is R.S. Fitzgerald. Contact me at this email address. He put this sign out for the public to contact him so he could sell the house directly. Okay? Now, Mr. Mullowney pointed out that, now Mr. Mullowney is saying that I put the block on the land registry because my brother was trying to sell the house. No, Mr. Mullowney did that. I didn't do that. Mr. Mullowney has no right to say that I did that. Like, he's putting it all on my shoulders. He did it. He told me, he said, Dan, I'm going to put a block on the house so he can't sell it at their land registry. Okay? He told me that's what he's going. I said, okay, because Mullowney is the one making the decisions, not me. Now, I will say to the public again, I think I said this in my previous videos, if Mr. Mullowney did such a lousy job, I warned him in the beginning when I contacted. I said, listen, my brother, you don't know him. I told him he's conniving, he's sneaky, he's trying to steal the estate. I told Mr. Mullowney this. Okay? I guess Mr. Mullowney is used to dealing with clients that lie to him or something. I don't know. Maybe he's got a psychological problem. I mean, I don't know why he wouldn't believe me in the beginning, you know. So let's just move on here. So I would have asked Mullowney, Mr. Mullowney, did you send your investigator to the house to take a photo of my brother's for sale sign? It was illegal. Did you do that? Did you have your investigator have witnesses talk to the neighbors who saw him do this? You know, I said to him, did you contact the Crystal Beach Water Department and get information from them? You know, did they send you a letter telling you that, yes, my brother faxed them the illegal will, and had them shut off the water? Yeah. I asked him these things. I said to him, did you contact the funeral home and get a letter from them confirming my brother used the 2016 will? Or how about CIBC? He never responded. What am I supposed to think? He didn't say to me, yes, he did. Because before you put anything in a document like that, number one, Mr. Mullowney has to have my permission. I have to see the document first and approve it. Okay. Number two, I have to sign it. Okay, I never signed it. It's the same as what Mullowney pulled with the Superior Court. Like, why did Mr. Mullowney send the Superior Court a copy of a will? The court does not accept copies. Like, this is what I mean. I know this, the Superior Court in 2007 in Toronto, where the judge lied and told us the other party wasn't in default. We found out afterwards, yeah, they were actually in default. The judge actually lied. Okay, and I explained this to the Supreme Court as well of Canada. So, okay, bye. Yeah, bye, honey. I'm sorry, my wife is going out. Mr. Mullowney knew all along, okay, since day one. The day that I sent him, like the day I sent him the Bonifant will, I got it to him, and the other will, my brother's will, okay, he knew my brother's will was illegal. He already knew. It wasn't a codicil, because I had 4 other lawyers say no. 2 of them, Bonifant and Mr. Rubenstein, thank you, Mr. Rubenstein, both said, no, this is a legal will. It's not legal. Well, Mullowney knew that. And these lawyers, as I said before, they didn't question it. They did not say, oh, it's possible it's a codicil, or it's possible it might have merit. You know, they said, no, it's illegal. I got it from 3 lawyers and 1 lawyer in the park. And I accidentally ran into, he was riding his bike. And I didn't have the wills with me, as I said in my previous video. But here's the point. The Superior Court of Ontario does not accept copied documents as evidence. So Mr. Mullowney set my brother up because, you see, my brother's will that he sent with the Bonifant will was not a copy. See, Bonifant's will, his secretary stamped the big word copy on it. Okay? The court does not accept copies, and Mullowney knew that. This is how I've got Mullowney. Okay? Mullowney made it so that the judge could rule that the will presented as the will for my mom could not be used. He could rule that the will is no good and cannot be used because it's a copy. Okay? The courts do not accept copied documents. They accept emails. Okay? They accept original documents, the same as the banks. Now, the banks, they let me off the hook. And one of the reasons why they did is because CIBC, I'm their client. My wife and I have had an account there for years. And my mom's bank, one of them, is also CIBC, you know. And the bank, my bank has on record how I arranged for my mother's funeral without my brother involved. He didn't want to be involved. And I had arranged to have it paid by the bank. So the CIBC knew that I was acting properly as executor. So, you know, did Mullowney contact CIBC? Mr. Mullowney told me not to go to the banks. You know what? Mr. Mullowney knew. I didn't know. You see, I didn't know. Mr. Mullowney never told me once on the telephone, Dan, the will's a copy. Okay, it is the true copy, but because it's a copy only, the banks may not accept it. He never told me that. I had to go out and find out on my own. Okay, and the banks were reluctant, but they were very good about it. You know, RBC was very good. I went to see them, although my mom only had $200 in it, and the account left, but they were very decent, and they gave me some information, and I thanked them so kindly. I think they knew that the difficulties I was in. I told them, you know, what my brother was up to. Okay, and I made it clear to the banks, look, I don't want any money from her account or anything. I just want the balances, and I want to find out if my mom set me up a trust fund that does not reflect it being in the will, a completely separate fund in my name only that I could get, that would not be connected with her will. Okay, so I was doing the right thing. I asked them if they could pay for her headstone. I asked them if they could pay for her storage. They said they could, but RBC said they could, but I needed to bring a bill. Of course, they didn't know how much the storage was. There wasn't enough in her accounts anyway to do that. And so, and then I find out later on, someone's trying to block me from going to the bank. Someone contacted the banks and said the will's a copy, and I don't have the right ID. The only person who knew that was Mullowney. Okay, so these are the things that are going to be sworn to the Supreme Court of Canada against Mr. Mullowney and my brother. Okay, I think what has killed finally my relationship with my attorney is that I told him in emails about my mom's diaries. Okay, and he didn't care. All he cares now about, like my brother, is he's out for blood. Okay, because he is guilty, and my brother is guilty too. They both are. So I'm gonna pursue this with the Supreme Court, and I thank the Supreme Court very kindly. I thank all of you for talking to me on the phone and telling me to email you and stuff. I really thank the Supreme Court for that. I told the Supreme Court that they're the only court in Canada who can protect my wife and I's rights, and those of my mom. Okay? There is no other court that can do that. We have proof that the Superior Court of Ontario is in disrepute. The judge lied in 2007, okay, about the other party in a lawsuit we filed. They were in default, and we had filed a default judgment, okay? And Justice Patilli of the Superior Court of Ontario lied. And I'll say again, people said to us afterwards, well, why didn't you go, when you went back into the courtroom to hear his decision, why didn't you tell him? We were too scared. We would have embarrassed the judge. He would have got angry. Okay, we were frightened. we needed the judge to be on our side. Now, we did win to some extent, okay? But the fact of the matter is the justice lied. And we were too scared to say anything when we went back in. So, and I've been indicating this now for years as well, which means the Superior Court of Ontario has corrupted justices, okay? And I think that's fair grounds for me to appeal to the Supreme Court with auto leave to appeal from the Superior Court regarding my mother's estate. All right. Also, Mr. Mullowney keeps saying to me, like he's starting to give this routine. Well, if we don't respond, your brother will become sole executor. Like he's starting to say this to me. Well, no, he can't, because I'll appeal. Okay, I'm going to appeal regardless. I'm going to appeal before I take leave to appeal. All right, Mr. Mullowney is leading me to believe that my brother's going to win. Oh, really, Mr. Mullowney? Is that right? So, he's trying to pull scare tactics again. He said to me in his email, well, Dan, I need to protect your rights. What? Excuse me? And again, I say to the public, my response to Mr. Mullowney's demands, he has two demands. He does not want to hear about my concerns about the case. He does not want to hear about my mother's diaries. He doesn't want the photos. He wants two things. He made it very clear. He wants a copy, screenshot of my brother's communications to me, and he's indicating to me for me to instruct him on his next steps. Excuse me? I already told him what my next steps are in the Supreme Court of Canada. That's what I'm talking about. He can talk to me about what his next steps are. I'm not going to tell him. I'm not an attorney. Okay? He's the attorney here, not me. So he has to explain to me what those next steps are. And then I will make a decision as to whether or not I want to carry through with those next steps. And I rather doubt it. Mr. Mullowney has blown himself into being fired now again by me because of my mother's diaries. He's refusing to use them as evidence against my brother. And this is what he's clearly saying to me. Mr. Mullowney has been like this all along. As I say, I asked Mr. Mullowney over the months, I said, Mr. Mullowney, and I asked him by telephone, did you contact Crystal Beach Water Department and get evidence and proof from them my brother used the will? Did you get proof that through going down, sending your investigator there to get a photograph of the, as I repeated earlier in my video here, to get a photograph of my brother's for sale sign to the public with contact information in him? Did you get that? I said, did you get a statement from the funeral director that he used that will? Did you go to CIBC and request them to supply you copies of his estate file using that will? Okay, I asked him all this. He should know this. You can't tell a court on my behalf, okay, without my knowledge first and presenting me an objection for my approval and just send it to the court. Now, needless to say, everything is true that's in there. It's all true, right? And it can be proven, okay? But before you state that, before a lawyer speaks for you in a document, Mullowney also knows the truth, that everything in there is true, but he's got to make sure he's got evidence from the places my brother used the will. He never indicated that. And I say again, Mr. Mullowney did not consult with me first, okay? When he drew up the objection order, okay, he should have sent me an email with a copy of it saying, Dan, this is the objection notice. Do you agree with what's stated in it? Do you have any questions? Is there any concerns? Please sign this so I can fire it off to the court, right? If you agree. If you don't agree, let's set up a time where we can talk and I'll answer your concerns, okay? Like, I don't know what kind of operation this guy's running. I think it's a fly-by-night. Like, I've never heard of anything like this. So, anyways, in ending this video now, it's at 35 minutes. Mr. Mullowney knew all along I was executor and trustee. He knew when he got the wills that my brother's will was illegal. He already knew that. He kept that from me and didn't tell me that. Now, I pursued the 2016 will with Mr. Mullowney. This is true in the beginning. But then when Bonifant told me, when this person who helped my wife and I went to Peter Bonifant's office in Crystal Beach on my behalf and showed Mr. Bonifant the will that this legal representative of mine got out of the house, my brother's will, Mr. Bonifant immediately stated that will was illegal. And he gave a stamped copy of his will to this legal representative of mine personally, okay? But the reason why I didn't accept Bonifant's statement on my brother's wrote up will was because Bonifant told me only one of us could be executor, okay? And Bonifant told me that if my brother wanted him to represent him, he would. So there was a conflict there right away. So Mr. Bonifant was against me, so I wasn't sure, at least he was at that time, but I wasn't sure by his showing he's against me that what he had stated about my brother's will was accurate, you see? And this kept bothering me. So I had to contact some attorney someplace who would look at both wills. And I did. The first one was in Toronto. First it was Bonifant. The first one in Toronto confirmed it, and then told me that type wills are no good at all, okay? Then that wasn't enough for me because the person in Toronto could not see the wills. So then, and the person in Toronto also told me that there can be two executors, okay? That's not true, what Bonifant told me. And so then I went to, I got in touch with Jeremy Rubenstein of Williams Litigation, okay? And he sent me an email confirming with no questions that my brother's will was illegal. Okay? That's what happened. So then I finally knew for sure it was illegal. So then, I told my lawyer, I said, look, Rubenstein told me the will's illegal, my brother's will. And then my lawyer said, well, I talked to him. He didn't tell me that. I said to him, well, I received an email from him telling me that. Okay? See, this is my lawyer kept playing with the 2016 will. See, this is why my lawyer, you see, he should have contacted Bonifant, because I told him to when I got the will from Bonifant, and I said this in my last videos, that my lawyer knew it was a copy. Now, I contacted Mullowney. I said, look, that will's a copy, Mr. Mullowney. You have to get the original from Bonifant. Okay? Now, at first he said to me he would. Okay? And then he turned around at a later date and said to me, well, no, I'm not going to do that. Because if I do, Bonifant may contact your brother. Okay? So what I'm saying to the public again is that the copy will that the court has, they're not going to accept it. The judge he's going to throw the will out because it's a copy. I came to Mr. Mullowney again. I said, Mr. Mullowney, we need a certified will. I contacted Bonifant myself, me. And I asked him for a certified will and to email me how much it would cost. He told me $130 to send it by registered mail and $150 to send it by courier. He's willing to do it, okay, to give me a certified copy. So, what do you in the public think? What do you think of all this? Now, something happened after I hired this attorney. I noticed that Mullowney started going against me when he started having contact with my brother. This is when he came out with the mental illness garbage on 2 occasions. Now, I'll tell the public this, okay? There is no judgment by any judge in Ontario or anywhere else, okay, that confirm that I am mentally ill. There is no judgment stating I'm mentally ill from any court anywhere. Okay, and I want to make that clear to Mullowney and my brother. What I found to be interesting was this. Here, Mullowney says to me on the phone on 2 separate occasions that the second time he said I was mentally ill, there was no suggested reason for him to say that. There was no suggested reason for him to say it the first time. Okay, but he said it twice. Then my brother, when he texted me his message, tell him the first one, the response to my phone messages as self-representative, at the end of his anger spat, telling me never to contact him again, he said, "You're mentally ill." Well, that's interesting, because he and Mullowney said I was mentally ill. So we got a lawyer who says it to me twice. And the second time he said it, my lawyer confirmed he thought my brother was insane. Okay, and then he said, "And you're mentally ill." That's what he said. Okay, the second time. Then my brother says it to me on my initial contact with him. Okay, which it was an insult, and I didn't pay any attention to it. I didn't say anything derogatory to my brother. I never threatened him. I was self-representing. You can't get angry when you represent yourself to the other side. You have to be reasonable, and you got to come across very reasonably and be careful, because the other side is against you. So I know all that, so I'm very careful. All right, and I contacted my brother because I couldn't get answers from my attorney, and what my brother said was essentially correct. Okay, I'm not going to deny what he said was correct. Mr. Mullowney lied to me when he told me my brother's 2 lawyers bailed on him. That's not true. Mr. Mullowney kept offering executorship to these other attorneys, him and them, is what he was doing. And my brother, the minute that these lawyers told him that they were offered a shared executorship with my attorney and me, my brother said no. He has a right to say no. I think he's an idiot for doing that, but he had a right to say no. Okay? Just like I have a right to say, he can't be sole executor. And I offered him, in my final message to him, there's only a couple of responses from me, but in my final message to him, I said, "Look, Scott, we're both executors on the Bonifant will. Both of us." I tried to get that across to him again, but, to my knowledge, he didn't respond by text message. He wanted to email me. I haven't checked the other email yet to see what, he probably did, but I have not looked, because I really don't want to. Okay? And he said he had some things to tell me about my lawyer. He called my lawyer, and don't quote me on this, I could be wrong. I'm just saying I think I'll have to look and see, but I think he said my lawyer was a monster or something like that. Okay? Like, I have no doubt that some of what my brother's saying is true. Okay? I have no doubt that that some of what my lawyer has said is true. But both of them have told a whole bunch of lies. Okay? And Mullowney did not represent me properly. And not at all. So, I already warned him that when I file in the Supreme Court, I'll be filing against him because he did not act appropriately. Okay? Here's the question for me, though. The big one is when Mr. Mullowney knew I was executor all along and trustee. He knew this, okay? He knew that my brother's will was no good all along. What gets me, why wouldn't he give me an advance? He kept using the excuse that he could not give me an advance until he was executor. But again, I say to all of you, and I'm sorry I'm repeating this, I've said this already, but here's the point. It didn't matter whether he was executor or I was executor because we were one against the other side, against my brother. So it shouldn't have mattered. I needed to get my mom a headstone, and I needed to deal with my boat. I needed to deal with some things, okay, that were really important. Mr. Mullowney said to me on July 15th, Dan, next week you have your money. He didn't say maybe. He didn't say, look, you're going to get your money next week, but it could fall through. You might not. He said, Dan, you're getting your money next week. You'll be able to pay for your mom's headstone and your boat. This was a provocation by this attorney to make me angry. And he's done this many times. He sits on his little phone in his office, okay, and listens to my messages without picking up the phone. This is what he's been doing. What does that tell me? Well, it tells me Mr. Mullowney has been committing some things he shouldn't have done, and I've caught on to him. And then he started turning around, provoking me into anger, so he could use it against me later when I sued him or I brought him before the Supreme Court of Canada. This is the game Mr. Mullowney was playing. Well, his games are over. Now, I told him, I called him yesterday a number of times, hoping he'd pick up the phone. He was there. He wouldn't pick up the phone because he wants me to respond by email. And he knows the things that I'm saying to him, or the things that he's saying to me, will upset me. So he wants me to respond by email. Last night, I sent him an email. This is what I said. Because in my brother's application as sole executor and his excuses, he's saying that my mother wanted to change the will against me. He said that my mother, because she had bad fingers, okay, her fingers didn't work. Because she had bad fingers, she couldn't do it. She couldn't switch the will. That's not true. Okay, if my mother, Ruth Patricia Fitzgerald, wanted to change the will against me, hey, if she couldn't do it because of her fingers, and that's just his only excuse, well, that's not going to work, because my mom could have called an attorney from her home and had one come down and talk to her and my brother, okay? That could have been done right away. When you're talking $399,000 property, okay, and my brother would have known that, then why didn't he call a lawyer and have a lawyer come and see my mom and change the will and get rid of the typed will, Scott? It's no good. So why didn't my brother do that? Well, rightfully, the judge should recognize that right away. Well, Mr. Fitzgerald, if you're saying your mother's fingers were no good and she wanted to change the will, then why didn't you find her some other avenue? A lawyer could have come down. Marlene could have helped. You could have gotten Marlene to witness, giving a statement that, yes, Ruth wanted to change the will and leave everything to Robert Scott. But Marlene never did that. Okay? I know my mom told me on the phone the last year before she died, in 2021, she kept telling me that Scotty's bothering me to sell the house. He's bothering me, wants me to sell. Okay? And she said to me that she said I might do that. And I said to her, Mom, if you do that, I won't get anything. He'll take it all. Okay, you'll get what you need. He'll take it all. I won't get a thing. You know that, right? I said, but this is what I said to her. I said, Mom, you do what you think is right. That's what I said to my mom. And I maintain that. My mom had a right to do whatever she wanted. Okay? And I respected that. There was no coercion on my part against my mom. What my mom told me finally 2 months before she died, she said to me, Todd, how much is your boat you want to get? I said, it's 28,000 Canadian. I remember telling her that. She asked, she knew Jennifer and I wanted to live on a boat again. And she knew I loved boats and she wanted me to have one. That's what my mom was like. And then she said to me, well, look, she said, when I die, you have the money for your boat. Well, Robert, my mom doesn't lie. Mr. Mullowney, my mom did not lie when she said that to me. Where's my boat? She said after she died, audience, I swear under oath, that's what my wonderful mom said. Because she knew I was going to get some money from somewhere. Where is it, Scott? Now, my lawyer, and I want to point this out, my brother wrote in his application for sole executor, lying about me. He told the truth about my threat against Dalton McGuinty in 2008. But what he did was, I know what he was pulling. He decided to tell the truth, okay, about one event that would be proven true, which would give him credibility for the two other things he lied about. I'll report to you that my brother said that I did some things to him when he came to kick us out of the house. This is what he's stating, okay? This is what he's stating in his affidavit. But here's the problem for Robert. He said to the best of his memory, so obviously his memory's not too good, so I'm going to refresh his memory. A female, a Niagara Falls police lady who was standing outside with us while we were waiting for the truck to come to take all our stuff so we could leave. She went into the house and talked to my mom for 15 minutes. I guess my brother forgot about that. And then the female police lady came back out of the house and she said, Daniel, your mother wants to talk to you, but just you. She didn't want my wife coming in. Okay, which is fine. So I went in and I talked with my mom. And I said to my mom, I'm sorry, Mom, this all happened to you. I didn't want this to happen. It wasn't us, you know. She said, I know. I said, look, we love you, Mom. It's okay. You know, I said to her, don't be upset. I said, I love you very much and I'll be in touch. And she smiled and she had tears in her eyes and she was in a wheelchair. And he was yelling and screaming at us. You know, he tried to jump my wife. He did. And he was yelling and screaming. My concern was my mom is elderly and in a wheelchair and he's pacing the house yelling and screaming. And I was worried she'd have a stroke or something. At one point it got so bad, my wife and I went out and sat in the backyard till he just kind of, you know, stopped bothering us. And then finally we went into the house. We started unloading our bedroom, taking our stuff out to the front. And, you know, he was occasionally coming by making loud remarks and threatening us. So I was worried he would go out front and try and steal something. So I sent my mom out front, or my wife out front, to watch the stuff. And I just kept making trips in and out. And I just ignored him till we had everything out of there. That's what happened. So, you know, my brother has no proof of anything. Now, I have the diaries. I'm a little bit shocked that, you know, I've got 3 diary videos up of my mom's diaries, okay? I haven't gotten one view in them. Canada, you want to explain that, Mr. Prime Minister? Because I'm going to tell you something tomorrow, Justin. The diaries, I'm taking a photograph of each one, which will be very legible. And I'm sending them all to the Supreme Court registry. Okay? My wife, also, I wish to report to the public, I just spoke with my wife, and I want to report this to the Supreme Court as well. I will after this video. My wife has agreed to handwrite you the application, SCC, here in Ottawa, Supreme Court of Canada. I just talked to her. Her fingers are going to kill her. I don't want her to do it. We will have to do it spread out over a few days because my wife's fingers, I don't want her fingers to hurt. I say to all of you, listen to me. I did the best I could for my mom. I was willing to share the estate according to her wishes with my brother. I was being fair and even-handed. I went to the banks to take care, to be a good executor. I wanted my mom to be proud of me. I wanted her to look down from heaven and look at her son and say, look, you're doing a great job, thank you. You know, I wanted her to look down and say, oh, you tried to save my storage, my china that I wanted to see for one last time. I wanted her to see that I was trying to pay her bills. I was trying to get her a headstone. I got a beautiful headstone for my brother. Had nothing to do with that. He could have cared less. Here is Mullowney trying to provocate against me again, saying to me on the phone, well, you know, Dan, don't get the headstone right now. You and your brother have to share that. Excuse me? I don't think so. I don't share anything with him. He doesn't care. Yeah, like that's what he started saying to me. Mr. Mullowney was told by me, and he could confirm this, you know, in the beginning. I told him the hospital tried to call my brother, kept trying to call him and call him. They were getting upset and telling me on the phone, why won't your brother return the calls that your mother passed away? Where was he? He had his phone. He gets his messages. And as a result of his negligence, my mom's body had to stay in the morgue for 2 weeks because I had to take care of it from here and I didn't know what I was doing. And because of that, she couldn't have an open casket. This is what he did. I told Mullowney to confirm it with the hospital, to call them, talk to them. He never did anything. Mr. Mullowney never proved to me that he was representing me. Never. Okay? All he did was file documents with the court, and that was it. Okay? He was very definitely against me. Absolutely. But his being against me was what he didn't write. It's what he said. Okay? And the things, the insults. Okay? But what can be proven against him is that I was executor trustee all along, and he knew it. So why wouldn't he? I go back again. Why was Mr. Mullowney refusing me in advance? Unless he already knew that my brother was going for sole executorship. He had to have already known Mr. Mullowney lied to me regarding his reasons for not giving me the advance. He was lying. Which means that he talked with my brother, and my brother told him, I'm going for sole executorship. And if not that, Mr. Mullowney was trying to create a great big huge court case to make lots of money. Now, those are the only two possibilities. So which are they? Was he in with my brother? Was he on his own trying to make lots of money? What was his motives? You know, he lied. He said to me that my brother's lawyers bailed on him. He says it in my notice of objection. Well, my brother bailed on his lawyer because my brother didn't want his lawyer to be executor, which I think is stupid. That would have been the best outcome. Okay, but my lawyer insisted on being executor all along. And he knew, my lawyer knew there was no way my brother would allow him to be executor. Okay? There was just no way. Mr. Mullowney knew this. But he pursued it anyway. And that drove my brother to this extent, to file to be sole executor. He's being vindictive against my attorney. Or he isn't. I don't know. What does my brother have to tell me about my attorney? He wants me to terminate him first so he can give me information about my lawyer. Now, my lawyer knows about that. Is my lawyer scared? Or is my brother going to make false statements against Mr. Mullowney with me? Well, to be quite frank with the audience, I'm not interested. My interest right now is getting these diaries to the Supreme Court of Canada about my brother's abuse of my mother. Okay? My lawyer misrepresented me, lied to me all along. Okay? Played me. Okay? I don't even know how much he spent on the case. He could make up whatever numbers he wants. I don't have the contract from him. Still, don't have a hard copy of the contract. I do not have the billing I requested each month from him. He's hiding these things. So I think that enough's enough. I think it's time to get rid of Mr. Mullowney, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of him. And I have nothing to say to my brother, trust me. I can't. He beat my mother. I can't. No. And I'll tell you folks something. I can't be within 10 feet of him. Okay, after the beatings he gave my mother. Calling her a slut. He said to my mother, you're a dirty pig, have a shower. He called my mom a filthy slut. Why would a son call his mother a filthy slut? Then another one, he said, give me your card, he said to her. He meant her bank card. Anyways, maybe not today, but maybe I'll wait till tomorrow, but I'm going to take photographs of close-ups of every single diary of my mom. My mom put the dates in there, the exact time that it happened. She put S for Scott, of what Scott said to her, and then she put her reply. Oh, Mom, I love you. I love you. You see, I will also explain before I go that, we all hear of terrible things. We hear of people getting murdered and there's a criminal investigation, to find out, the police find out how the murder occurred. And they look for all kinds of evidence at the crime scene. You know, they look for diaries from the victim. You know, they look for diaries of assaults against the victim. Clearly, I say to you folks, my mom kept these diaries, and they date back to 2001 and onward. Okay, why did she keep them? Why did she hold on to them for so long? I mean, she died in 2021. Why in 20 years did my mom not throw them out? She didn't forget about them. My mom did not have dementia. I will tell you folks this, right up until the day she died, my mother's mind was perfect. And nothing wrong with it. Now, if my mom forgave my brother for what he did, okay, why didn't she get rid of them? Why did she hold on to them right in the house underneath his nose? That's what I'm saying. If a mother forgives her son and wants to change her will against me, the good son, who loved her but never hurt her, do everything to protect her, like I do my own wife. I protect my wife too. All the time. My wife comes home and complains about harassments, and I feel for her. And my heart goes out to my wife. And I feel bad that she goes through these things. Okay? Now, if what my brother claims is true, that my mom wanted to change her will, that his excuse to the court is her fingers were too bad, well, there were other avenues that he and her could take if she wanted to do that. So that excuse isn't going to hold up. And I say again to you folks out there, and listen to me, okay? My mom kept those diaries. My mom's friend found packages of papers. My mom would not have forgotten she had them. He reminded her as very often through other more abuse against her. Now I'm going to tell you something else regarding the diaries. The diaries prove something else. Marlene, my mother's former PSW worker, who my wife and I knew very well, they were good friends, Marlene and my mom. She was not only her PSW worker, but Marlene was her favorite. And I liked Marlene too. Marlene did a great job, you know. Now, Marlene witnessed my brother one day came to pick my mom up. She got dressed, and Scotty was going to take her shopping in her car. How nice of him, okay? He asked to borrow her car years before, and she said, sure, you can borrow the car. He never brought it back. He left my mom stranded in the house with no car. She simply lent it to him. He was supposed to bring it back. He never did. My legal representative told me that, okay, who's been a friend of my mother's for 25 years and helped my mother immensely, okay? So my mom got dressed. My wife and I helped her get dressed. She had trouble because my brother was coming to take her shopping. She was fine. Her hands were fine, okay? So she was gone for about an hour and a half. And my mom returned, okay, an hour and a half later, and came in the house. And she got some stuff, some groceries or stuff with him. And she had this big chair right in the living room, like a lazy boy. And my wife and I came out to greet her. And she had this huge, don't know which hand was it. I believe it was the left hand. She had this great big purple mound right here on the top of her hand, right here. And it was about a quarter of an inch high and 2 inches in diameter, and it was turning purple and it was swelling. So my wife and I looked at her and said to her, Mom, what happened to your hand? She says, oh, I think I caught it in the car door. So the next day, Marlene came and she went into the bedroom to help my mom. Okay, she come. And she said to me, my wife, what happened to your mother's hand? I said, yeah, I know. By this time, her hand had swollen up an inch high into a purple bubble on top of her left hand. And we said to her, yeah, we saw it when she got home. And look at it now. It's an inch high. It's like a purple volcano on top of her hand. And Marlene said, yeah, what happened? My wife and I told her, well, she came home and told us she caught it in the car door. Excuse me. I don't think so. And I'm going to tell you folks something. The diaries of my brother's abuse against my mom, by my mom, make it more than likely that my brother hurt her intentionally and did that to her hand. Okay, so anyways, I better go. I'll upload this video now. It's an hour and 5 minutes long. I have contacted the Supreme Court. I tried to send my lawyer an email regarding what my brother stated, that my mother's terrible fingers. My lawyer is trying to blackmail me, and I want to remind you, Mr. Mullowney, okay, blackmailing me, okay, or trying to scare me unnecessarily, okay, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You're guilty, and so's my brother. Both of yous are, and both of yous are going to answer, regardless of the estate. And I'm telling you that now. I think Mr. Mullowney knows he's done, okay? I consider his lack of response on using my mother's diaries. These should be given to Justice Edward right now, as far as I'm concerned. He needs to receive them. I'm going to deal with the Supreme Court on this issue. They asked me to email them, and I'm continuing to do so. And again, I'm going to go now. I thank the Supreme Court very kindly. I thank all of you very kindly. I thank the judges. I thank Justice Richard Wagner, wherever he is. And God bless all of you. And my mom appreciates it most of all. Isn't she beautiful? I showed her photo. Her 81st birthday. With a big smile on her face. Shalom.